Welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty.
Hi, good morning in Australia and good evening from Canada. Welcome to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast. Today we are talking with my dear friend Cimone-Louise. Cimone-Louise, I appreciate you. I know it's Monday your time, Sunday night my time, so I appreciate you coming on the podcast. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Jody. I always find it really fun and welcome to the future.
Yeah, I know, right? I was like, can you tell me my lottery numbers?
Your future. It's just a little bit after 10:30 a.m. I am in your past, and together we are in this now moment. So I feel so delighted to be here with you. I really appreciate all the love that you give to myself and all the community. So infinite blessings, Jody.
Thank you, my friend. I know, you do the same. You hold spaces, you hold space for people. You are just like a gift with your blessings and your love. And why don't you tell me what you want to share? Tell me about you.
Yes, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed listening to your podcast, learning about you, your soul, your inner child, as well as all of your wonderful guests that you've had. So, I was born in Singapore and my mum and dad divorced when they were young. And I know that many families have separations and breakup. But yeah, it was pretty tricky for me to adjust. So my theme for my healing and my trauma has been about abandonment, shame, and shunned. And I've been with my beautiful partner and husband for the last 20 years. And
Awesome.
whenever I speak about my parents, my partner, I always want to do as much with much love and reverence and respect, because I know that I chose them on this life path, and I know everyone's beliefs are very different, and I really lovingly respect that. But yeah, in this 20 plus year journey, I know that my parents did the very, very best with the wisdom that they had, and they're my wounds, and I always go, well, those wounds now have turned into wisdom, and it's my responsibility to kind of clean up my backyard and my inner home and my sanctuary. So yeah, I feel blessed to continue to be in a living, breathing workshop every day, and I don't mean it in a bad way. It's just, I always say joy is on the journey, and when you get those energy pops, when you get that energy release, you're like, okay, let me pause and let me breathe.
Yes, absolutely. I know abandonment like the back of my hand, so it's something that, I've been dealing with since literally the day I was born, and it's a difficult one to work through. I find it's like, you know, I used to have 100 triggers, and now I have, maybe 10, 8 of which are manageable and two which aren't, and abandon is one of them.
Yes, my love. When I've done some deep digging, on this journey with different healers and therapists, I remember, let's say it was about 10 years ago, because I'm not sort of a linear time person, but I remember her writing it on a whiteboard. And she goes, you know that you've come from at least 3 generations of abandonment. And that was like a very defining moment. I just felt like I'd lessened the energy and the pressure of, like, sometimes when you're on this journey, you feel alone and you don't feel like anyone has the same story or the same pattern. And it was like that instant relief that I felt like she gave me permission. I had permission to breathe and go, do you know what? You haven't made this up as a child. Your feelings, your vibration, your frequency, what was projected on you. And then things just started to settle. It's just like, this is not just from your mum and dad. This is from their parents and their parents. Yeah.
I did some, because I'm adopted, I kind of wanted to know a little bit about my background. So I did some research and some ancestral stuff and some DNA stuff. And it was the same thing. Like, since Children's Aid existed, it has been a part of my birth family. Like, it just goes back trauma, abandonment. and it goes back for like, I don't know, as far back as I could go. It looked like in the like 1800s, they were doing that kind of stuff. So um, it was kind of like a relief too, to know that, this didn't just come from me. It didn't come from like my feeling of like not belonging anywhere. It was, this is generationally inbred.
Yeah, thank you, Jody, for sharing. I always say that there's always one, there could be two, but there's always one very special soul that comes into the family, takes that energetic hit and knock, willing to do the healing work, willing to assimilate, willing to rip those onion layers off. And it burns and it hurts. But I know, though, that when I become a vibrational example, I know that it's affected my parents in a great way and my husband in a great way. And I go, it's worth it. I'm worth it.
Yes. Yeah.
And I remember you saying on your podcast, which was so beautiful, because I always say when we're in contrast, we might not see it, but there's always a blessing, when it's ready to come. So when you're saying, well, what's the gift? What's the gift? And definitely for me, Jody, the gift of abandonment was, hey, how about not abandoning you anymore? How can you show up and how can you shine light and how can you continue to love yourself? So that's been an ongoing journey of making sure I don't pull out from my own love, don't abandon myself. And if my relationship with my dad was more solid, I would not have the relationship that I have with God, whether you call it source, divine intelligence. That personal relationship that I have with God outweighs anything. And I know that we're all doing the best we can and we're human, but when you plug in to that peace and that source energy, it what sustains me, it what nourishes me.
Yeah, that makes absolute sense because, it's like we ask others all these questions, and we ask ourselves questions, and we never really take time to consider that within the question that we're really asking ourselves is the answer. We just have to dig deep enough. And I often refer to trauma as like onion because it's like you got to start with one layer at a time. And literally each layer that you peel back makes you cry, right? And then, but eventually, like you'll get to the core, and the core is where all the answers are. And you just got to keep at it and keep working on it. And it's not easy, but it's, for me, um, I decided not to have children when I was 19 because I didn't feel that I had enough love or capacity within me to be able to, protect a child from, whatever I went through type of thing. So that was when I was like, okay, that's it. No more trauma is happening to anyone coming by me. And, this is the time now that I have to heal me, and then the generational trauma on my side ends.
Yeah, amazing, my love. Uh, I'm in my 50s, and even though hubby would have liked to have children, he deeply understood. And I chose not to have children in this lifetime. If I knew what I knew now with
Yeah,
this
yeah, different story.
and the wisdom, and I was 20, 30 years younger, but exactly it is, I wanted to heal the wounds and do the healing for the ancestors that way in my lineage, this now and everything forward, because I really do believe, sometimes, we've all had dark thoughts because we've all had trauma, and there's been probably many a times that we're like, why am I here? I wish I wasn't here. And, my new affirmation now when I'm walking is I always thank my ancestors, because without them, I wouldn't be here. But most importantly, I wouldn't be able to smile. And that to me just softens the energy of like, do you know what? Even though we've come from all this trauma together, you had to rip a lot of onion layers to get to where you are. And you've made my journey a little bit lighter and a lot brighter.
I appreciate that because that's, I think, what I had to turn my trauma into for something good to be able to come out of it. So, I went to therapy. I took a trauma coaching course, not to like make money coaching, but because it was like a further investigation of myself. And I just keep, you know, I just keep working on it because people say, well, when is healing done? And I'm like, probably when you're dead. And not to be like morbid, but like you're gonna keep, it's like learning. You shouldn't ever stop learning, and you're probably never gonna stop healing. But the point is not to get to healing. The point is to enjoy life again while you're healing, right? Because that's where the moments are. It's on the road. It's not like the journey is not always the destination, right? You want to take the little moments and enjoy the little things along the journey that maybe perhaps before you couldn't enjoy.
Oh, very much so, Jody. And I'm a big believer also as well that the healing continues when you cross over and you pass over. We hopefully come into this world peaceful, and we always wish, people that have left their body is like, may you rest in peace. But I'm like, well, I'm alive now. I want to be in peace.
Yes.
And that is my full-time job, is to create as much inner peace and peace of mind and go to bed with peace, wake up with peace. But I know, though, that, our ancestors and people that we love, they do communicate in their own way when they've crossed over. And energetically, are they happy? Are they settled? Are they at peace? Or are they restless? And so that's how I look on it, as, I call them karmic accounts, is I don't want to add any more debt in this lifetime to my account. I want to kind of clear the ledger as best as I can, and, tread lightly on this earth, tread peacefully on this earth, leave that peace and that legacy. That's the biggest part.
You are like a beacon of light and hope, and you just have like your spirit and your soul, like it literally like shines. And I see, and it's not just me, like I see the effect that you have on people who come to your spaces, the people that you've talked to, and it's such a beautiful gift. And I'm so glad that you have found, a sense of peace, and you do have a loving, supportive partner. And, I'm thrilled that it turned out like this, not for you, because you did all the work to get there.
Thank you, my love. It's, with my husband, his name's Merv, MERV, and the biggest gift that he's given me is to reparent myself, and to do the inner child work, because I came into this relationship with a lot of unmet needs, because my parents did the best they could, but they still didn't offer that love and support that a child needs, and especially physical safety. So of course, when you see the romanticized of a relationship of like, yes, and this will happen and that will happen, and it's like, no, you've got to do all the inner work. It's not his job to be happy. So he's a very peaceful soul, and he is, exactly, Jody, he is very, very supportive. But there's an energetic stance that he will do, that if I'm feeling wobbly inside or needy, he'll just be like, uh-uh, not doing it. He won't say it, but I can feel it. And I have learned over these years to continue to self-soothe, because, often when you're growing up, you hide a lot in your room. People will, parents will go in your room or sort it out, or you
Yeah,
feel,
yeah.
and we brood a lot in that isolation. And as a child, you don't know how to self-soothe. You just sit there in the muck and the mess and the ick, and your parents don't really, are you okay? This is what's happened, and bridge that energetic gap. And so that's the part of it, is, that environment, whatever you grow up in, you just take into relationships. And those,
Yes.
so I'm always big on love the one you're with, which is the man or woman in the mirror, and also to the partner or a friendship or your colleague. Whoever's standing in front of you is your divine healing angel. It's your greatest teacher. And if you get triggered and you get tested, it's like, stay, breathe through it. Because if you move
Yeah.
on too fast, it's going to come back. And
I Yes.
that's not worth that onion layer, dear Jody.
It is so true, because it's like, as I say, like the lesson comes back in 50 different forms until you've learned what it is. It'll return and return until we finally get it. And once we get it, then we can deal with it. But I think for some, the uncomfortability comes with actually getting it and sitting with it, not getting it and like swishing it away right away because, ooh, this is uncomfortable and I don't want to sit with those feelings because it's not nice. As you said, like as children, we didn't know how to self-soothe. We spent a lot of time in our rooms, or I was, an only child for most of my life, and um, taking care of my mom. By 5, I was an adult. I was doing, adult things. And never was I ever once taught any form or method of self-soothing. I just used to like bury it all inside. And you know what happens? It turns into, angry teenagers and suicide attempts and all sorts of nonsense. So for me, I'm at that point now where I'm just like, as you said, my mom, I will say, did the best that she could under the circumstances of being a depressed, battered woman. So I can now, make peace with that with her, which I have done. She passed many years ago when I was 19. And, I feel in my heart and in my soul that wherever she is, she's definitely, I always say rest in love, but I believe she's in peace.
Thank you, my love. I haven't heard Rest in Love for ages, and that is just so peaceful and honouring because exactly if we combine those two divine virtues together,
Yeah.
we are love and we are peace, and she is love and peace. And, Jodie, when you're sharing that also as well, I feel, especially for mother healing, is our mothers held a lot of family secrets, and there's a lot of unspoken words of what actually happened that
Yeah.
they won't tell us, but you can tell vibrationally. It's just like, I think you went through that. That's an ouch. I think you went through that. That's unthinkable. That's so full on. So, yeah, our mothers carry a lot of wounds. They carry a lot for us.
Yes, absolutely. And for me, I think one of the hardest parts was like after someone passes away, and then you're like, okay, well, they suddenly become like on a pedestal, and you don't want to speak poorly about the dead. And I had to, work a lot through therapy and inner child work to not um, be angry or place blame, but to almost take the pressure off myself to lay the I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but to just place the accountability where it needed to be accountable instead of me holding it for my entire life. So when I was able to do that, it was like finally like, ah, that's better. Like I just, like a weight off my shoulders kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely. It's the permission to see that relationship in all its worth and all of its wholeness, and to be able to go through all of those grieving stages, even no matter how long it's been, Jody. How many times have we said that on Dr. Bob's space and your space is like grief and trauma is not linear. I used to say it comes in waves, but sometimes it can come as a tsunami and just
Yeah.
smack you in the face. You're having a great day, things are going good, you might read something, speak to someone, you're like, why am I crying? Because of, something's unprocessed, something needs to be resolved, or, gives you clarity, or there's joy of relief that there's crying, and that there's a connectiveness as we journey together.
Absolutely. I think you have such like you're so in tune with the spiritual world, the, connectiveness between people who are, how far apart are we? Too far apart. If I ever come to Australia, man, I'm not leaving, so I'll be there for good.
You're so sweet because Merv and I just got back from being in the States this last 3 months. And I tell you what, I love traveling on a single way ticket, and it's just like, don't tell me that I have to go back after 3 months. Of course, we're delighted to come back again next year. But I love that freedom, and exactly how you feel is just like when you vibrate in that energy, in that environment, and it just wants you to stay. It's beckoning you.
Yes, yes.
it's allowing you to heal in that environment, which is such an honor. And, we just live profoundly in that now on that 3 months. We never planned anything. And I can say, well, we didn't plan anything. And then again, it was all in God's plan. And we just went from one place to the next, completely trusting, completely surrendering, and enjoying the healing and all the beautiful souls that we got to meet. And it's just like I always say, we're a mirror of each other. It's either 1%, it could be 100%. So that's always very humbling when you can get a gauge of where you're at and how people see you and feel you, and just leave that little gain, that little footprint. Like when we've been to 15 airports at 11
I
states.
know, that's so crazy. That's such an amazing trip. You must have had like the best time.
Yeah. And the thing is, Jody, when you're talking about your mom and I'm talking about, this trip, everything gets easier when you're away from the environment and when you can journal and when you can sit and you can be. But sometimes when you're in a certain environment or with certain people, you can't always see the benefits, and if you are in contrast, if you're wobbling. So that's what I'm enjoying very much, is the reviewing and the resetting when I come back. It's like, what is my highest priority? What isn't? What brings me joy? What can I tweak with that? So, everyone says, oh, what a great holiday it was. To me, it was just a simulation of what Merv and I do. So we've been pet sitting for the last 10.5 years,
Oh
and
my God, that's so fun.
it is. It is really fun. We put everything in a very small, tiny storage unit. We've, you know, decreased it 3 times, and we love the fur angels because exactly we chose not to have children. So the fur angels give us unconditional love, adventure, walks, and so yeah, hubby just said, he's like, well, whatever that we do in Australia is what we can do when we're away. And that gave me more freedom of like, oh yeah, I can just relax because this is what it's all about. So yeah, it was beautiful, Jody, in so many ways. So many ways.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy that you had that experience spiritually, mentally, and, physically able to meet some of the, friends that you've made on I hate calling it X, ugh, on Twitter. Um, yeah. That's just an amazing journey because like I think you're not one that forms surface connections. Like I think you can form a surface connection, but with you, it's like there's an immediate sense of comfort, I feel, for a lot of people. So therefore, the surface connection can easily sink into like a deep connection. And that's probably why you met, so many wonderful people along your travels.
Thank you, Jody. When you're describing that, it's like, not many people do house parties anymore, but it's like going to a party and just, sitting on the floor or a couch with three or four and just having that deep immersion, that intimate bond and energy very fast. Don't talk to me about the weather. Don't talk to me about
Ah,
politics.
yes.
All the trivial things. Talk to me what makes your heart sing. Let's connect. And yeah, exactly. I did get to meet 25 people from spaces from the Twitter community, and Merv got to meet about 30 of his. And I can say to you that it's not like we've had engagement or WhatsApp or video chats. It's just been very much a trust and a feel. And there's just one beautiful occasion in Austin. Yes, we did get to meet Dr. Bob, which was amazing and fun and joyful. There was also another person called Carl and Zaki, and we sat, the four of us, including Merv, we sat for 8 hours together. And I can truly say to you, it felt like 20 minutes. It was so heartfelt. And now when I go on to spaces and I, see everyone's little profile, there is just this deeper love, and there's silent love, there's telepathic love, there's unspoken love, there's that respect and that field of energy that just keeps amplifying.
Such a wonderful experience. Like, Dr. Bob would be fun. I just think he seems like a fun dude.
He's such a generous soul, and it was great to be able to see him in person because, we only get to see the profile on Spaces. And so, his laughter is amazing, his vibration is amazing, his sense of humor, his clarity, his generosity, very benevolent, soul. And, Merv and I definitely look forward to next year hopping into one of his retreats and, and being with him. That last 12 months being on his space and recently on yours has absolutely 1,000% accelerated my healing. There's just no doubt, because it's like when you're having the opportunity to be seen and to actually verbalize how you're going, even if it's a very short check-in. We all know that once we put words and voice, we receive our own clarity. So when people do hold space in such elegance and not come in that fixing energy and, you should do this, or, pop into your DMs and go, well, this is what happened to me. There's no saving or fixing. It's just done in a very respectful way. And when you feel like you can have a voice and be heard and not judged, it's so exquisite for the soul.
It really is. It really is. I made sure not to record my space after the first space that I did record, because someone said to me I would feel much more comfortable talking if I knew it was just contained to this group. So I was like, okay, done. Simple. And that makes it a safer community, because now I have more people who are willing to share, because all their feelings and emotions aren't spread across the internet. They're just in my little safe little world that I've tried to create for them.
Yeah, and I feel, Jodie, especially with the trauma spaces, to be able to have that, because, some souls don't even want to call like a lifeline or, call the helpline, because it's just like, oh, what's going to happen here? Or
Yeah.
I know for myself this year is, yes, I do have a support team, but there's no one that I felt in that moment that I actually wanted to go to. It was just like, there has to be an outlet that the soul feels safe, because when we feel safe, then we can heal. And all the trauma that we've had since childhood and everything in between, if we're not feeling safe emotionally and we haven't come in a safe environment, then it's just like the inner child's like, I'm not coming out. You want me to speak? I don't think so. There's no way. And you can feel energetically when you're with certain people that it takes a little while for them to warm up, or the inner teenager might be like, no, let's just be really mouthy today, or, rebellious and push back because of the resistance.
I try to make sure that I do have a huge toolbox of coping skills, but I will never say to someone, you need to do this or you need to do that, because I don't know what you need to do. All I can say is that reach into my toolbox. If something doesn't work, throw it out and reach in for another one, right? So it just that's my trauma gift, is this knowledge that I have and this ability to hold space. And I think between the two of them, it makes for a nice, safe community for people to, feel like they can open up and be seen and heard and validated. Validation is so important.
Yeah, exactly, Jodie, about the toolbox, because what may work for you, may not for someone else, and vice versa. I call it like spiritual hygiene or energy hygiene, that when it's hot and humid, we can have 2, 3 more showers a day to get rid of the physical dirt. But inside, it needs to be cleansed, and that investigation is the joyful part. Like I call it spiritual entertainment, because the ego, if it's idle, it will just find things to pick at, complain, judge. But if you give the soul spiritual entertainment, like I love journaling, and I know that you do, and so I'm always exploring different ways to be able to bring out that clarity and still have that joy. And yeah, everyone's journey is themselves, and what a book you may relate to, it's just like, because that's where you were at your pivotal start of the beginning of your journey, or different parts. Like I know the Heal Your Life, Louise L. Hay, and Marianne Williamson, Return to Love, they were just one of those ones that were very defining for me. And I'll always just go back and I'll just smile and just go, thank you. Thank you for those affirmations. Thank you for that reminder that I was worthy and I am worthy.
Yeah, Louise Hay is very good. I appreciate her work. Um, it's wonderful when I I have this thing about the persistence, the resilience, the tenacity of World War II survivors in any aspect. And there's a couple of books that I've read. Dr. Edith Egger, I think her name is, and she wrote The Gift and The Choice, and she's a Holocaust survivor, and they are just like, wow, like it's so powerful. You know, the state of mind that they were able to go, oh, cat on the computer, the state of mind that they were able to, stay in. And it's so inspiring. And I'll often pick up her books and go, yeah, like I can do this. If this lady who's 97 and still actively practicing, might I add, can do this, then I can do this, and sometimes we all need that gift of inspiration, that gift of hope, because sometimes, hope gets lost.
Yeah, thank you, my love. It's the changing of perception. That's what I like. Is like we have our gratitude glasses on, but I call it spiritual vision. And I always like to be able to see a situation or a person with a different energy and a different outlook, because then, if you don't, familiarity creeps in, there's rudeness, you just get sloppy in your energy and your behavior. But it's like when I can continue to keep going inward, because I always say it's an inside job, is the inner world creates the outer world. If I can keep turning inward, then my perception changes. And it's like,
Yeah.
we always say, don't shut that door, slam that door, because I used to. We've all talked about hypervigilance and walls up, barbed wire fence, security dogs, security guards. It's like, well, you try and get in here because I'm going to just keep building it and making it harder. But when we feel safer in ourselves and safer with others, and we trust that energy and that flow, then for me, my job is always going, well, how can I look at this situation differently? Because my mum and dad see it in this way, and I don't want to make them wrong, and I don't want to be right, because that's not going to be good for either one. So yeah, my job is always just to see it softer. Can I see things in the eyes of God? Because we love children that are innocent and dogs that are so sweet and they've got this beautiful purity, but it's just like the Louise L. Hay, she's like, try and look at people as a 3-year-old, like have that permission that they once were a child also as well.
Yes, and it's so perspective change literally once you know, can get those horrible thoughts replaced by, literally just shifting your perspective, 10%. And it can help your inner talk. It can help your communication with others, your relationship with others, because you're not so closed off to everything. I was pretty closed off to everything, like, you know, and now it's just like if I get hurt, I get hurt. I've been hurt a ton of times in my life, and hurt is part of life. Am I going to steer myself towards it? Obviously not. But it is part of, the roller coaster or the journey that is life. It's like I grew up, sailing a lot, and it's exactly the same. You're on a wave, you're on a calm period, and all of a sudden the storm picks up, and your boat's rocking, and you're hanging on for dear life, and then all of a sudden, after the storm passes, there's always a calm.
Yeah, we love the ocean. That's why I love talking about the ocean of love. Exactly, that our inner weather barometer, you know, can depict that. And that's the key, is that we need all seasons, and people come into our life for a season, a reason, maybe
For
for a
a
life,
lifetime. Yeah.
or for a good chunk, and it's just like, well, what's the lesson here? What's the blessing? How can I heal this? How can I transform it? And to be in that flow, because I love that analogy of going downstream and, whether it's in a kayak or a rowboat, I'm going to leave my oars at the bank. I don't need them. And I'm going to just sit in that river system today with the sun on me, the butterflies, touching the cold water. And I'm going to trust the process of life, that universe has my back. I have my back and I'm infinitely supported. And can I stay in this flow state as much as I can throughout the day? And if I pick up my oars and go back upstream, then I'm controlling and I'm forcing and I'm pushing and it's draining the life force out of me. So this is how I keep my energy management check-ins pretty much every hour on the hour. I'll ask my inner child, how are you feeling? What do you need right now? And those two basic self-care questions pretty much every couple of hours, or at least in the morning start and then the afternoon. I'm not pushing her to do things that she doesn't want to do. I'm not forcing her to be in environments that she doesn't want to be in. And that's, to me, the softness of that relationship with her, because no matter how difficult our childhood was, I'm going to always keep choosing Jodie in this moment, that I can create a happier time and a happier childhood with my inner child as best as I can in every moment. And she wasn't protected when she was young, but I feel like I don't have to protect her fiercely like I used to. I can let her sit next to me and beside me, then feeling like she's actually inside of me. And it's just like, everyone keep away from her,
Yeah.
you know?
The fight mode stance.
Yeah, it's like, you got to come in. Whereas it's like, no, be relaxed, because you don't need to protect that hard and fierce. And it's just that opportunity of being tested again in a great way. It's like, well, who's in front of me? If I'm praying in my own way every day to go, well, come and play, come and enjoy, let us, be together, then the ones that want to come and snuggle how we are now, they snuggle. And the ones that want to stay away, it's like, that's okay. You do your healing work. You be in, this solitary healing sanctuary, and I'll keep doing mine. And if we're meant to align, then amazing. And if we're not, I wish you well always in every given moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a, important, two very important questions to ask yourself, honestly. And I am just like, in the past, probably like 6 to 8 months, started like inner child work. And it's very hard, but it's very healing. It's very healing to acknowledge all these, feelings and emotions that have been buried for so long, and know that, shit was not my fault. The stuff that happened was not my fault. I did not do anything wrong. I wasn't born with some flaw, because sometimes that becomes like, when you're so young, it becomes like a core value almost, that there's something absolutely wrong with me if, five different sets of parents got rid of me. And then I look at it factual. I'm like, well, wait a second. They didn't get rid of you. You were taken away from them for abuse and neglect. So, again, the perspective change shifts everything. So then I can say, okay, well, obviously there's nothing, like, I didn't do anything wrong as a baby, you know?
Yeah, thank you, Jodie, for just incorporating that part of that abandonment and the shamed piece, because that's exactly what happens when you're in shame, is that you think that you've done something wrong. You think like, what's wrong with me? Why won't you love me? And it's really hard to adjust that when you're a child, and then that lingers into adult when others continually you're sitting in that energy. The inner work that I've done when I look at my mum and my dad, how much shame that they sit in, it may be hidden, but when you really peel back those layers and you go, aha, okay, I definitely absorbed a lot of your shame to think that it was natural, because there's an emotional guidance scale which I really love looking at from time to time, and that lower bottom of that emotional guidance scale will often have shame and guilt, and then we often say, well, after shame, where do you go? And that's the reason why people do what they do, to going, I can't be in this pain anymore. I got to go. I got to leave this planet, because after shame, there's no other emotion. And it's a really heavy, dark, black, dense energy that I wish no one to experience, because you really look on it as you're to blame. There is absolutely something wrong. I am so unlovable, because you really believe it. I am so unlovable. No one loves me. And if your parents are projecting that on you, you're going, well, if my parents can project this energy, then they say that they love you unconditionally, but they certainly don't. It comes
Yeah.
with conditions and a
Right.
price.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like all traumas, we are always, not stuck with, but we have to do the work to heal the damage that was caused to us by others. Um, and sometimes you're just like, holy crap, why me? Like, why did all this is there a reason behind all this? Like, was I given all these traumas because I was strong enough to handle them? Or was I given all these traumas because it was a test? Like, you're always looking for the reason behind it. And sometimes I just wonder if, there's no logical reason for it. It's just, I happen to be, through the foster care system through a bunch of people who had a lot of problems of their own, right? And they didn't know better. So they did what they knew, which, unfortunately passed trauma on to me. And I almost go back and hope that, there wasn't a lot of other foster kids in their families, because they would also be, suffering the same type of trauma that I suffered. So, um, the foster care system is a tricky thing, and unfortunately, in Canada anyway, like it can be a money making opportunity, and you will see like some people have like five foster kids, and it's not that you can't, and there aren't exceptions to the rule, but you know one foster child, two foster children, that's a lot of work because we come with baggage, right?
It is, my love. Yeah, it is. And thank you for just sharing that. I will continue to send love, to that system, because it is broken, and it needs that pure intentionality. It needs that pureness and that purity all the way through. That it is a joy to have a child, to foster a child, to love that child, to nurture that child, to nourish that child. That child offers so much love, and innocence. And yeah, so I know the part of it that's, when you're questioning it, that's what the inner child will do, is question, like, why? Why did this happen? And thank you, Jody, for your courage to be seen on every level, because I know that there's some traumas in my life that there's nearly no way that I will physically speak about it. I think about it and I go, oh, I'd love my mum to really know what happened as a child. And she's 80, and I'm just like, I can't do that to her. Like, I feel like
Yes.
I just can't do that. I'm choosing not to, and I can
Hmm.
say telepathically or journal. It's up to me to process it. But there's some things that I will just not speak about. And I thank you for your courage to shine. And I thank you for all the guests that you bring on and all the love that you share with the community, because your permission to heal gives everyone else permission just to be, and if they can heal it, amazing, and transform. But it's that whole part of it, is we are not alone. Together we rise, together we grow stronger, and that's how we thrive. Is that it's not just making it up in our heads, or, oh, you're too sensitive, oh, you should have got over it now. And it's just like, you don't know my journey, and everyone suffers
Yes.
a lot in silence, and they don't say it. So on the persona, I can look happy, But it's just like I still am clearing this every single day. And there's some traumas that we'll have that will be there forever. It may lessen, but it never goes away.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a physical scar. There's always a reminder, like the wound heals and everything's, closed up and you're healthy again, but there's always, you can just look at that scar and, that's a reminder of that, and that never goes away. Um, but it doesn't come with as much pain anymore because it's just a scar. It's sensitive to the touch.
Yeah, and I've got goosebumps or God bumps, as you say, that is a complete reflection and closing the energy gap of how far you've come and how far you've risen. And if there's just a little bit of tweaking, that's okay. But yeah, I'm really big on self progress, and I feel like for us, we don't often praise ourselves of how far we've come and what we do, because sometimes you're just so in on it that it's like we do have to be our own cheerleader as best as we can. And that's the part of, when I'm walking today, I love, because this is the same place that we came to house it last year, and because her father passed away and other things happened on other space communities, etc., it was like, I wonder what it's going to be like to walk into this energy, into this house, into another year of this beautiful soul that's done her best to do the healing. And then when I'm walking and I'm reviewing my own personal journey, I'm like, oh, phew, I'm glad that that's healed, or that's been tweaked, or that's not such a strong habit anymore. But it's just that gentle benchmark. As you said at the beginning of the podcast, we are always going to be students to learn, unlearn, relearn, and we'll always be students forever and ever. And I'm the only one that can mark my test paper every day. I either pass or I fail. There's no in between of like, can I go to bed at night and rest my head and go, you know what, you did the best, you're a good soul, you tweak this 1%. And that's my benchmark, Jody. Every day is, how can I improve? How can I be a better soul to myself? How can I be kinder to myself and others?
Well, it's so funny because you like literally are one of the kindest people that I've come across in my life. And we haven't even, known each other for long, but that's just my, I have I think a lot of trauma survivors have a very strong gut instinct when it comes to people. And, as soon as I heard you speak, I was like, oh my God, this woman needs to be doing YouTube meditations. And because you have such a beautiful, when you close out a space, it's beautiful. When you speak, it's beautiful and peaceful and calming. And it's just, you have such a presence that I wonder sometimes if you can see that effect that you have on people. Because, like I always say, people have a ripple effect. I believe you have a wave effect, right? A little bit stronger than a ripple. And it's beautiful.
Thank you, Jody. I'm going to receive those verbal blessings, and I'm going to just take that moment with you to thank you and just take a pause, because I know that for myself with yourself is there was this instant recognition that when I saw you on Dr. Bob's and when you were hosting your own space and when you would message me, there was just this divine love and pure love, and that understanding that we didn't have to speak much, but there was like a remembrance, and your beautiful posts and the way that you put those messages into those inboxes. And when I especially was away these last few months, they lifted me more than what you realise. That dose of light and love that came into my inbox, it was just like, bless this beautiful, kind angel. So there's another beautiful soul, Ziggy, that does his space, and he says something similar, like, because the trauma and the pain that we've gone through, we will do anything we can for others not to feel that pain in any sort of way. If we can stop it, prevent it, it's just like, and that's where I'm bridging this part of, how can I support this person with as much love and respect and integrity, because it's their journey, instead of the old energy of like, oh, I need to save you, I need to fix you. They never asked for saving. They never asked for fixing. But both you and I have been compulsive caregivers from such a young age
Hmm.
that when you slip into that role, you're so good at that role. And I used to be like an ex-lifeguard. That was one of the things that I did in my early 20s before I moved on to other things. And I just always remember being trained. It's like, don't let them touch you. Don't let them grab you. And we've all seen it on TV when someone is panicked and they think they're going to die or they've been choking with water. They will hold on to you and drag you down and
Yeah.
drag you metaphorically, physically, every analogy possible. And that's why you throw them the rope. That's why you throw them life jacket. That's why God throws you that lifeline every single day. That it's like, don't get on your knees praying for support. Be with God, be with Mother Earth every single day, and you will receive that connection and that clarity, and you'll never feel alone because you have that personal relationship. So yeah, it's it's just that bridging for me is just not to overplease, because we can love and we can support, but it's just like self-service, fit your own oxygen mask. When you can come strong in that resilience, then you're teaching others to fish forever, not for a day. I'll give you a fish for a day.
Yes.
I'm going to come back.
Yep. That is so true. It's and I'm a water person too. Like water is my healing. I live in a smaller town near Niagara Falls, and there's lots of like lakes and rivers and Lake Ontario and everything, and it's just that's my space. I always used to say to my mom when I was like small, I was born in the wrong country. I need to be somewhere that is sand and beaches and just nature everywhere, because nature is my, it's my savior, it's my grounding, it's my refreshing almost, just to be in water, on water, or near water.
Well, Jodie, I really look forward to next year meeting yourself and both Amy's and Dr. Bob, especially meeting yourself, my love. We will have much water therapy and
Yes, yes, absolutely. It'll be
silent
wonderful.
joy and journaling and a hug and yeah. And
Absolutely.
I must say to you, seeing you on video and on camera has been such a delight. So I'm going to invite you gently. Maybe on Spaces you'll do a video, because I have felt so much closer to you. I really, really have.
I didn't even know you could really do video on Spaces. I thought that was still a glitchy thing, so I have not attempted it, but yes, maybe I will. I
And,
appreciate you.
and I know I haven't as well, so maybe we can explore it together. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate your time. I really hope we can do this again, and I'll give it a couple of months, and then I'd love to have you back on. Um, and other than that, let's just do a coffee one day. We'll do a Zoom coffee or something, because I feel refreshed in your presence, and I want to thank you just for being you. You're a wonderful soul. The world needs a lot more of Cimone-Louise, and I'm just so grateful that we connected.
Thank you for your generosity, Jodie, and your benevolence and the way that you hold space with so much grace. And there is a deep wisdom that flows with you and an understanding. And I know that sometimes you may not verbalize that to everyone, but I know though that that is one of your superhero powers, is that you do understand. And yeah, we will definitely catch up, my love. So thank you for the honour of being with you today, and all of the beautiful people and the souls that will listen to this. Wishing them well and wishing you oceans of love, and we will catch up very soon.
It sounds good, my dear. Thank you so much. Oceans of love right back to you. And next time you're in the ocean, think of me.
Absolutely. We are mermaids together.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you, my dear. We'll take care.
Bye, Jodie.
Bye, honey. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Health Raw and Open podcast with your host, Jody Betty. If you enjoyed today's show, please give it a like and don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And if you appreciate the work I do, why not buy me a coffee? Details in the show notes. Today's episode was recorded and edited by Dorian Kent and produced by Jody Betty and Dorian Kent. This has been a Raw and Open production.